What's up everyone, it's Victon here with another Path of Exile guide. Today we're going to be going over how to level a Carrion Golem Elementalist for 3.12 Heist League. Before we dive into everything, if you end up enjoying this guide, do consider subscribing and liking the video. I have many other guides that you might be interested in, including a Carrion Golem Elementalist League starter for Heist League, as well as a min-max in-game build guide for this same build back in Harvest League. I'll also be releasing a ton of content for Heist, so definitely check back if you enjoy this guide. Alright, so the way we'll do this guide is I have 4 sections. First, we'll quickly go over how to install the custom filter I made to go along with this guide that makes finding your colors and links super easy. After that, we'll go over your gem links as you level up, including which colors you're going to be looking out for on gear as you progress. Then at the end of that section, I'm going to put up on the screen some cheat sheets that I actually use when leveling up this build that makes the whole process super easy so you can focus on just leveling instead of figuring out what to look out for and do next. After that, we'll go over the skill tree and how to progress as you level up, including your ascendancy choice and points. And lastly, we're going to go over a Twink setup to make leveling this character as fast as possible if it isn't your first character and you have 30 to 40 chaos to spare. And that's it. I'm going to try and make this guide as short as possible, but still make sure you guys get everything that you need to get your Carrion Golem build up and running in maps as fast as possible. Alright, so let's jump into it. So first, let's quickly go over how to install the filter I built specifically for leveling this character. Just go into the link in the video description under Carrion Golem Leveling Filter, and when you get there, just make sure you're signed into your POE account, and then you're just going to click follow on this specific filter, and you should be good to go into your game and under options, and then you're going to click UI, and then you're going to scroll down all the way to the bottom, and under your list of filters, it should be right there for you to click. If it's not, just log out and log back in and you should be good to go. Basically, with this filter, it highlights all the links you need for the colors you'll need as you level up. It makes it a ton easier and quicker since you won't be scrambling around to find how to get all your gems in your gear as you level. Once you're done leveling, just go ahead and switch back to your main filter since this one is only for leveling. Alright, cool, so let's move into our links and colors as we level up. Okay, so what might be helpful here for everyone is just pause the video based off of what act or quest you're on while leveling and use this video as a leveling guide. This is actually what I do and it works really well for me. I'll still go over everything, but just wanted to mention that pausing the video and going at your own pace can really work well too. I'll also give a pretty detailed step-by-step for the first several acts, which should help you guys out with the best possible routes to take while leveling, and it should cut down on your time spent. Once you get past Act 5, it is pretty straightforward and no more gems needed, so we won't do a step-by-step past Act 5. Anyways, starting in Act 1, here's a couple quick little cheat sheets that you can leave up on your screen to pinpoint what the links and colors you're going to need as you level up through both Acts 1 and 2. These will be your colors and main links. And these will be your secondary links. And here's the main cheat sheet to use without the gem names. Okay, so step by step for Act 1. After you beat Hillock, go in and get Freezing Pulse as your quest reward, and then link that with Arcane Surge that you got running from Hillock, and then we're going to go ahead and purchase a Raised Zombie for 1 Wisdom Scroll. You're going to run all the way to a Submerged Passage and grab that waypoint, then go back to the Coast waypoint and go in and do the Tidal Island quest. After Tidal Island, go ahead and log out instead of using a portal scroll, and then log back in and grab a Frostblink from town, summon Raging Spirits, and summon Phantasm as your rewards. Still use that Freezing Pulse though. At this point there is no use in using your SRS or zombies since they're just not good at this point. While in Submerged Passage, don't do the Crab quest yet for that extra skill point, just go ahead and put a portal down at the entrance to the Flooded Depths. We'll come back to this shortly. Head to the prison and try and get level 8 by the time you get to the prison waypoint, and then go back to town and grab a minion damage as your reward and purchase an Infernal Legion for 1 transmute. At this point, hopefully you should have found a 3 blue link and can start using SRS, minion damage, and Infernal Legion. It is really great for AoE clearing. Once you have those, go ahead and take your TP back to the Flooded Depths entrance and do the Crab quest. Finish that up and then head back to the lower prison where you're going to do your first trial and then head up to and defeat Brutus. After that, at the Prisoner's Gate waypoint, go back to town and grab a Summon Skeletons as your reward and purchase a Flame Dash for 1 transmute. Head on to the Ship Graveyard and put down a TP at the entrance to the Ship Graveyard Cave, but don't go in yet, and then head out and into the Mervale's Cavern Zone. Get that waypoint there and head back to town, where you're now going to pick up a flesh offering as your reward and purchase a smoke mine and a second minion damage, both for 1 transmute each. Take your TP back to the ship graveyard cave and finish up that quest, and then do Fairgraves and once again long out or TP back to town for your skill point, and then head back to make your way to fight Mervale. Hopefully by then you have the sacrifice node on the tree, which helps your skeletons survive a bit longer. Your zombies are still not good and certainly are not good versus Mervale, so don't even worry about those yet. Make sure to use flesh offering while you're fighting Mervale as well. Honestly, the Mervale fight as a fresh summoner with no Twink items is pretty cancer, but you're going to finish it eventually, you just gotta believe in yourself. Anyways, finish that up and then head into Act 2. Head up to the Chamber of Sins 2, where you're going to do another trial and then go back and finish the Blackguard quest and head back to town. Grab Desecrate as your reward and purchase Skitterbots for 1 alteration. Start using Skitterbots as your first aura at this time. Head to Western Forest, where you're going to fight the captain and get the quest item off of the wall, and then kill Alira, and then go and kill the Weaver. Next, head back to town and grab Elemental Focus as your quest reward and purchase Melee Physical for 1 alteration. Once you have these, you can now use a blue-blue-red link for your zombies, skeletons, and Melee Fizz, as your zombies won't die that much at this point and your skellies do a decent single target. Your SRS do great AoE damage like I mentioned earlier, so you start having overall pretty solid damage with those 2 setups. Once you've gotten those gems, head back to Act 1 and turn in that quest for the skill point and grab any gems you weren't able to buy in Act 1 yet because you didn't have the currency yet. After that, go kill the bandit Creighton in the Broken Bridge, and then do your next trial in the Crypt. Then go back up and kill the last bandit Oak for the 2 skill points. After that, just progress through the last bit of the act and kill Vol. Okay, we're moving along nicely and hopefully you guys are leveling up silky smooth so far. For Acts 3 to 4, here's your cheat sheets. First is the main links, colors, and gems that you're going to be looking for. And here is for your secondary links. And lastly, your main cheat sheet for these 2 acts. Also going into Act 3, we have a special easy craft that we can do that helps speed up leveling. We're going to be going with a craft that is a +1 to minion helmet. To do this, you need to make a life flask of animation by combining a life flask, a bone spirit shield, and an orb of transmutation. The bone spirit shield is highlighted in the filter, so be on the lookout for that starting in Act 2, and you can also purchase in Act 2 this shield from the vendor, so be checking in on that as well. Once you have a flask of animation, you combine it with a magic helmet and an orb of alteration to create a magic helmet with +1 to minion gems. I would, however, suggest waiting until you get a 4-link to do this craft, and best case scenario is you get a red-red, blue-blue helmet so you can put your Carrion Golems in there later for the +1 to minion gems. Okay, so for the Act 3 step-by-step, basically just progress until you've killed Piety in the crematorium, and then go back into town and grab Purity of Elements as your quest reward, and purchase a Convocation for 1 alteration. Start using Purity of Elements as your second aura at this point. Progress through the act until you have killed General Gravicious, but keep heading into Linares, and then at the waypoint before Linares 2, go ahead and go back to town at that point and grab Race Spectre as your quest reward. You should be around level 28 by now, but sadly, Spectres do die pretty easy at this level. But if you really want to start using it now, you can grab a couple Cannibal Fire Eaters from the ledge in Act 1. Keep progressing through the act until you get to the side quest in the library. Go ahead and do that and grab Feeding Frenzy as your quest reward and pick up a Blood Magic and Second Wind, but only if you have 3 or more Chance Orbs at this point. If you don't, then you can come back and grab these 2 gems later after we get our Golems first. Once you have that, go ahead and finish up Act 3. And in Act 4, we're going to be getting our Carrion Golem as a quest reward right after the Dried Lake, where we can also purchase a Stone Golem for a Chance Orb. This is why it's important to make sure you have enough Chance Orbs, because all of your Golems are going to cost 1 Chance Orb. So don't jump the gun and get that Blood Magic and Second Wind if you don't have at least 3 Chance Orbs like I mentioned. Anyways, continue through this act until you finish the Eternal Nightmare quest, at which point you're going to grab a Multi-Strike as your quest reward and purchase a Chaos Golem for another Chance Orb and a second Multi-Strike for 1 Alchemy. It's at this point you're already close to or already at level 34 and can start using your Golems. So go ahead and do your first Ascendancy trial and get your Elementalist Ascendancy unlocked and an additional Golem, at which this point you should have 3 max Golems. one normally, one from your skill tree, and one from your ascendancies. You're going to want to have one Carrion Golem, one Stone Golem, and one Chaos Golem. Once you've gotten that second multi-strike, you can also replace melee physical in your zombie and skeleton link for multi-strike. Once you've beaten Act 4 and you get into Act 5 and you do the quest for Lily and can purchase all of the gems at level 1 from her, go ahead and pick up the following gems. These will all go in your offhand weapons for leveling purposes, since we won't have a use for them until we get into maps. Pride for an alchemy, Animate Guardian for a chance orb, Impale for a chance orb, Maim for a transmute, Flesh and Stone for an alteration, and Dread Banner for an alteration. We do pick up a Brutality here and use it to replace our melee physical in our Carrion Golem 4-link. Do keep that melee physical though, because we do still want to level it up for later. At this point you should have all of your gems and should be good for the rest of the campaign. Here's your cheat sheet for Act 5+. You're going to want to have to make sure you're filling out all of your gear with the correct links and colors. Your main links are going to be these, and your secondary links are going to be these. And now, since we're going to also be leveling up things in our offhand, we're going to want to pick up or buy these two links and colors for your weapon swap. And lastly, your Act 5+ main cheat sheet for the links and colors. Okay, the last section here, we're almost done. For your passive skill tree, what we're going to be doing here is using Path of Building, and I'll have a link in the description to download this if you need it. The way I've set up my Path of Building here is in the left corner down here, you can click through and see all of your leveling path as you level up, which gives you the nodes in order from start to finish. So we're just going to do a brief overview here. We're not going to go over every specific node, but first and foremost, you do want to head to the Sacrifice node so that your minions stop dying so easy. This is a huge node when you're leveling up. Then we're going to grab some minion damage and duration, which helps your skellies and SRS. Then we get a +1 to zombie and skeleton. Next we head up and get minion instability, which is great damage boost for our SRS. Then we head up and get a +1 to Spectre, Zombie, and Skeleton. Then we just get a bit of life to help us through our upcoming Ascendancy trial. Next we go over to the Golem nodes, where again we're going to get that +1 to Maximum Golem, which gets us a total of 3 at this point, once you've also unlocked that Elementalist Ascendancy. From there we're going to pick up a good bit of life, and then some minion damage. And next we're going to grab a ton of life and some resistances. And then we're going to move to life with chaos resistances. And then, you guessed it, more life. And at this point, you'll be finishing up Act 10 and heading into maps. Also, as far as our Ascendancy choice, we are picking up Elementalist. And it's really only for the first 2 main skill nodes, which combined give us a total of +2 to Maximum Golems. A nice little side bonus though is that we're also going to get some additional Golem buff effect, and we're going to become ailment immune when we have 3 or more Golems summoned. And honestly, after these 2 points, we're kind of done with the Elementalist Ascendancy, as the rest of the choices just don't really benefit us at all. Okay, awesome. So like I said in the beginning, I'll also do a quick little guide here on how to set up a Twink character for this build. So if it isn't your first character in a league and you have some currency, even just a little bit, you can go ahead and spend some and level up as fast as possible to in-game with this Twink setup. So yeah, here's the setup I recommend. Now this is actually quite cheap, and give or take a couple items, you could easily have this setup for under 50 chaos tops even at the beginning of a league, so even cheaper as the league goes on. The way I've set this up here is pretty much the exact template I suggest you follow is what you see on the screen here. From all of your items to having your gems set up in your inventory ready to go as you level in this order, your flasks and your weapon upgrades. Obviously you have very little inventory space here, so we won't be picking up any items as you level up, but the point here is to level up as fast as possible to get to maps anyways, so you can start making the real currency. Okay, so first I'll just mouse over the gear, and we're going to begin with this gold rim, and you can get any % max resistance, it's just fine, you don't have to get the 40%, it's a little bit more expensive. Next, we're going to switch to a Wraith Lord at level 34, so drop the gold rim and grab this Wraith Lord, and it's just going to help your specters basically never die, and it's got a nice +2 to minion gems in it. Next is a Side Breath, or however you pronounce that thing. It's a level 1 amulet, and it is fantastic for leveling up as a Golemancer. A Piranda's Signet Ring for some mana regen, a Tabula, and if you have the extra currency, go ahead and grab a +1 to all socketed gems Tabula, and your damage is going to skyrocket, even with it already being crazy good. Next, you're going to get a Comb's Sign, a Loctonial Caress for your gloves, and a Darkness Enthroned with 2 minion jewel sockets, the first having life and some resistances, and the next having life and minions deal additional fire damage with minion life as a bonus if you can. We're going to be getting Wanderlust for our boots for some nice movement speed and mana regen. And lastly, for our weapons, we're going to start off with 2 +1 to level of all fire skill gems, which makes your summon Raging Spirits do an insane damage at level 1 and onward, until you get your Carrion Golems, at which point we're going to switch these over to 2 wands with +1 to level of all physical spell gems. Now, these wands can be used at level 1, and how you craft them is super easy and cheap. Basically, you're going to make a brand new character and run all the way to town and sell a Scouring Orb with a Wisdom Orb, and it's going to give you a book that de-levels you once you use it to level 1, where you then go purchase wands from the vendor, and they're going to require level 1 to use. 3-link them and start rolling them with fossils. For the fire wands, you're going to want to use Scorched Fossils, and for the physical wands, you're going to want to use Jagged Fossils. Typically, each of these wands can be rolled in 1 to 5 tries each, so not too bad at all. For our flasks, we're going to be using 2 movement speed flasks, one of which has additional movement speed and the second having freeze or bleed immunity, and lastly a quartz flask with additional movement speed. Grab some portal scrolls or a portal gem, whichever you prefer. Next is our gems, and basically here you just want to pre-purchase all your gems so that you never even have to think about them in your quest rewards, and you get to use them a little bit earlier than normal that you would have anyway. I'd also suggest lining them up like I have them here in order of level, so it makes it a little bit easier to tell what's going to be used next and when. You can also see I have a few gems here on the right side. These are the ones that I'm going to have in my offhands that I'll be using once I get to maps, so I've already got 2 offhands ready with the colors needed. Really, the only thing that you need to be paying attention to is always having a current life and mana flask. But other than that, you are all set up to do a super quick Act 1 to 10. I am not a racer or even good at power leveling myself. I think I can do about a 5-hour Act 1 through 10 on a fresh character, which is pretty mediocre, but with this setup I'm doing about 3.5 to 4-hour runs, so it saves a considerable amount of time. And again, this setup only costs about 50 chaos, and for the expensive setup using a +1 tabula or a 6-link wall of brambles from Mad Defense, which you can use at level 30, or going for a 7 league step boots that give 50% move speed, you're looking at about 1.5 to 2x, and you're going to be using 90% of this setup in any new character you create, so it's a pretty good investment in my opinion. Alright, so that really covers it for the Twink leveling up section here, so let's finish up with my final thoughts on leveling up a Carrion Golem Elementalist. Overall, even without any Twink gear and going full self-found on a fresh, new league character, it actually ends up being a ton of damage and pretty safe with all of your golems and a good amount of life, so it's actually a pretty smooth leveling up experience. And if you're watching this guide, hopefully that means that you know what the in-game version of Carrion Golems are capable of and are itching to get into maps and start shredding some in-game content. But yeah, that about covers it, guys. I hope that I was able to provide y'all with everything you need to level up as fast as possible, and I did it in a way that was easy to watch and learn from. Remember, if y'all like this guide, do consider subscribing and checking out my other content. I actually have a Carrion Golem League Starter build guide for this league already out, and an in-game version build guide from the last league, so go ahead and check those out if you're interested. Anyways, thanks everyone, and I will see y'all in the next one.